What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. The further we get away from this Liam Payne incident, the more I am convinced there was absolutely foul play involved in this situation. We're going to watch a little bit of video today and some testimony from a professional that, in my mind, is solid proof. There's no way that this was an accidental fall. Before we get started, like the video, make a comment down below, subscribe to the channel. I'm not going to bury the lead and step all over the point of the video by talking too much. We're going to get right into it. Great job, Law and Crime Network. I would definitely like to thank them for the content because a lot of this video is going to be based around their work.
We're talking about Liam Payne, who apparently fell to his death from the balcony of his hotel in Argentina. As millions of fans mourn his loss, new details about what was happening in the hours leading up to his fatal fall are coming to light. We're going to bring on forensic investigator Joseph Scott Morgan to sort this all out.
Yes. Okay, finally, a professional in the field of forensics. This is what we need. This is the person who is going to answer the questions for us about what happened that night with Liam Payne. I don't want to use too much of their video, get in trouble with copyright claims and things like that. So I want to set up. The manager of a hotel or employee of the hotel called, said that they had a guest that was acting erratically. They feared that the person was obviously on drugs and alcohol. They said that he was up there tearing up things in the room and that they were concerned for his safety, obviously being that there was in fact a balcony in his room. It says that only 7 minutes later, the police showed up. By the time the police showed up, Liam Payne had already fallen and was lying in the courtyard with catastrophic injuries. He was dead on arrival.
So thank you so much for coming on. Good to see you.
You bet, Jesse. Thanks for having me.
What can investigators learn right off the bat from that scene?
We always say there's no signs of forced entry or struggle. Well, this ticks the box relative to struggle, because when you're walking in there, you're thinking that there's been a fight, perhaps things have been thrown about. And most of the time, you don't necessarily think about an individual that is high or impaired by drugs breaking all of the items in there.
Not to toot my own horn, but this is something that I discussed heavily in my previous video. As a person who has used substances, anytime I've ever been impaired or in some sort of drug-induced stupor or drunken stupor, you are lucky to stay awake for any period of time. If you do get to a point where you're unconscious, semi-unconscious, you're usually that way for a few hours. One thing that you don't find is that when you are drunk or impaired, semi-conscious or unconscious, and you do wake up, you're not waking up like punching televisions, turning stuff over in your room. It just doesn't happen.
What would be the motivation for this,
Right.
for this kind of acting out behavior in the space?
Just going back to the physical injuries, the forensic experts, they reportedly found 25 injuries that were compatible with those caused by falling from a height. So that's according to the autopsy. And the report also said that craniocerebral lesions were adequate enough to cause death, while internal and external hemorrhages in the skull, thorax, abdomen, and limbs, they contributed to the mechanism of death.
Now, this is the part where, as a teacher, I would have told my children, now put on your listening ears.
Yeah, I do have a problem with this, okay, because you cannot say that 25 injuries and individual injuries are associated with a fall from this height. If you're selling, you've got a single point of impact, because let's just think about it. If you think about dropping an object, let's just say if we dropped a bag of flour off of a 3-story balcony, there'll be the part that you can appreciate in that bag of flour where it rips, because that's the point of impact. Now they're saying he's got 25 different injuries that are associated with a fall. How does that happen? Now, if you were falling down a flight of stairs, I'd buy that, okay, because you're bouncing off, you're pinballing off. Some of these things are interlocked.
Right.
That
Are you suggesting that perhaps these injuries happened before the fall?
Yeah.
Now, hey guys, I don't know much. Like I said, I'm just a teacher. But I'm listening to a forensic scientist say that he feels like these 25 injuries that were supposedly synonymous with a single fall more than likely happened before the fall ever took place inside the hotel room.
Because you got a big piece to this. You've got a busted up room, okay, and then you've got this great fall from a height. So that's 30 feet roughly, give or take, that you're falling from. And I don't know what the surface was like that he struck, and that's going to play a big role in it as well.
Now I want to go into the toxicology
Yeah.
results, which is important. So according to sources, Payne had a lot of substances in his system when he died. Those included cocaine, benzodiazepine, crack, the party drug known as pink cocaine that Joseph mentioned. And we've talked about pink cocaine before. It's also referred to as 2C. It's one of the drugs, by the way, that Sean Combs is accused of not only using, but also allegedly forcing others to move for him. It can cause things like racing heart rate, increased blood pressure, stroke, seizures. It's been popular in Europe and Latin America for a while. Its use in the United States is just increasing. So Joseph, Liam Payne apparently had pink cocaine in his system. It can already cause all these issues, but then you couple it with more drugs, and plus the bottle of alcohol I mentioned. What does all this do? What does all this
dangerous.
do to a person?
Yeah, I reflect back, to the days that life seemed like it was more simpler. This was apparently smoked. I've seen one report that is alleging that he was smoking this concoction with a pipe. So this creates a particular problem toxicologically because, we do in toxicology, Jesse, we do both qualitative and quantitative. You can look at a case and say, well, this is present. We've got ketamine, we've got MDMA, ecstasy. We might have benzos in there. Oh, we've got cocaine. There's heroin. You can qualify it, but it takes much longer to quantify it. And then you have to break these elements down, which is even more complex to understand the levels in each one.
So this is where I shared my experience in a previous video about the clonazepam and having had some experience with clonazepam. The jury's still out on how much this gentleman here is talking about, qualitative and quantitative. Quantitative is what's really going to give us some answers as to what kind of state of mind Liam Payne may have been in when he had that fall. Because I'm telling you, if the quantity of clonazepam was higher than perhaps anything else that he may have had in his system, and he absolutely could have had an unconscious or a semi-unconscious experience where he accidentally fell, or just being completely non-cognizant of what he was doing in that moment, thinking that, the balcony's the front door or something. Sounds crazy, but if you get too f***ed up, it can happen.
And when these things are being manufactured like this, where they're putting together the pink cocaine, you don't know if the portions, to put it in layman's terms, are the same over and over and over again.
Talked about this as well. I mean, we're talking about an unregulated substance here. So each and every time that this stuff all gets put together into this little concoction, they have higher levels of one thing, higher levels of the other thing, this thing next time, and then higher levels of the other thing next time. You just never know when it is an unregulated substance such as this.
They're not. Okay. So you don't know which drug is going to be the most overwhelming drug. Powerful hallucinogens. Okay. And you think about things like ketamine, which is actually used in anesthesia. You think about there's another element that's contained in here that was first synthesized back in the mid 70s, and they saw it as a hallucinogen then that could be treated for psychiatric problems. And of course, it never worked out. They have all of these on board, and not to mention the properties that things like cocaine bring with it. And you've got this kind of juxtaposition where these drugs are kind of fighting with one another. And you see this bizarre behavior that people will exhibit. You don't know who you're acquiring this stuff from. Yeah. And so I go back to the trauma. I go back to the state of the room that he was found in.
But authorities, they are investigating how exactly Payne was able to get his hands on these drugs. A hotel employee may have sold him the drugs. He was interviewed by police. There's been no arrests or charges yet. We shall see. An anonymous friend told the Daily Mail that the drug dealers had been preying on him. Now, the outlet The Mirror is also reporting that 2 female escorts came to Payne's room on the day that he died, but there was seemingly a disagreement over payment, and they left him after having drinks. They say they didn't do any drugs with him, but the women have reportedly been questioned. They're not considered suspects in any way. What are the next steps?
Okay, so here's a big piece of this from an evidentiary standpoint. They're saying that there was pink cocaine there. I don't think that they're necessarily getting that from the tox results. They're physically seeing something, maybe residue. Uh, so therefore, you have that standalone marker in time. You can analyze that. Then you go back to who you think may have sold it to them, and you press them hard. You press them very, very hard about all of their activities relative to this behavior, the sale of it, and have they witnessed anything with Liam? And also, were they trying to shake him down? Remember, he's a celeb. The perception is that all celebrities have tons of money. Okay, and you can actually track chemically back to a particular batch with this. So that's going to be interesting to kind of understand. And it sounds like he's dealing with a whole groups of shady characters. If you've got if people are just saying in reports that there's multiple people trying to sell him drugs, or that they're attempting to, and then he's got escorts coming to the room. You don't know who's controlling. He's in a foreign land, all right, and you don't know all of the nuances that might be going on there either. It is going to be fascinating to watch this from afar.
So, guys, what do you think? Forensic scientist here claiming that the 25 supposed injuries, one single fall, do not make sense. And then you talk about the escorts coming to his room. You talk about the pink cocaine, not knowing where that came from because it's not regulated. The argument that ensued, the fact that he had drug dealers obviously trying to get at him because of his celebrity status. Drug dealers obviously want to get paid. What do you guys think about all this? Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and comment down below. See you guys next time.